Good morning, everybody, and welcome to ACE 2019. Amazing to see so many of you here so early. It's just coming up to 9:30, and what I'm going to do this morning is really talk you through how to get a fully booked clinic without spending a penny on advertising. So let's look at what we're going to be talking about today. The first thing we're going to be talking about is why online advertising doesn't always bring in the best leads, right? That you can advertise, you can spend on advertising, but the situation that we often see is that you're competing against lots of other clinics on the same page and often attracting lots of time wasters and price shoppers, not necessarily the quality patients that you want to get. We're going to be looking at the one change that you need to make to your online marketing to make sure your clinic is fully booked. It's a change that costs £0 advertising spend. And we're going to be looking at why email is so important to attract new patients. A lot of clinic owners that I speak to, there is this attitude, why do we need to use email? People don't use email, people don't like email, we should be on social media. So I'm going to dispel that myth. Okay, I'm going to explain why email complements social media and enhances what you're doing with social media. Just a little bit about myself. So my name is Danny Beaumont. I'm Director of Brainstorm Digital, and essentially what we do is we build a system for clinics that enable them to take the patients that already come into their clinic and the leads that already come into the clinic and turn them into patients that come in again and again and again, rather than just focusing on advertising to new patients and competing and attracting time wasters. And I want to start off by really illustrating what the challenges that so many clinics have. So if I search, for example, if I'm searching for cool sculpting, what happens when I go into Google AdWords is I get a whole mass of ads that appear, and very, very difficult as the user who is trying to solve a problem, right? If I'm suffering from love handles and I'm trying to find a solution, I get lots and lots of clinics, and it's very, very difficult to tell one from the other, right? I don't really know, one might have a better website, one might have more information, one might have better FAQs about treatment, but it's very, very hard to kind of find the right clinic. This is what it looks like for the customer. Just a massive different clinics, and they don't know where to start. And the big challenge that many of your patients have is that they're all being sold to, right? They have a problem, right, which they're trying to solve, and all they get is these continuous, everyone is sort of pushing offers at them, and it's so frustrating when initially your issue is, I've got love handles, what do I do about it? Help me, right? Don't sell to me. So here's the problem that you have. Even when you advertise online, even when people are searching for you on AdWords, or they're searching for you on an internet search on Google, most of those people are still cold. Typically, only 3% of website visitors convert. The other 97% of your website visitors that you get disappear and never come back again. And even those, and many of those just want help. This is how they feel, just frustration, because they just want you to help them solve their problem. So what is the other 97% of people who come to your website? So a lot of them that I would describe are either what we call problem aware or solution aware. So they're aware they've got a problem, there's something that bothers them about their skin, about their body, and what they're looking for initially is kind of guidance on what they can do about it. Or they're solution aware, so they know that there are different treatments out there. So they are really looking at different treatments and saying, okay, what treatment is best for me? I'm not ready yet to make a decision to go for something, but what treatment is best for me? How can you help me? So what you see is we have two problems. One problem is that when you're advertising online, you're competing against lots of other clinics, and it's very, very difficult to stand out. The second problem you have is that you're dealing with people who are not yet ready to buy. So what is that one change you need to make that is going to completely be transformative for your clinic? And what is that change that does not involve you having to spend a fortune on advertising? So the very, very first piece of advice I want to give to you is focus on your existing contacts. We are all so preoccupied with constantly finding new leads that we completely neglect the fact that you've already got a lot of great leads. I can't get over the fact that so many of you will have a patient database where you'll have hundreds, if not thousands of contacts, right? And I'm talking about people who maybe came into your clinic for a consultation 12 months ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, and they haven't gone any further, right? Or they made an inquiry, they were interested in finding out more about a treatment, they maybe gave you a call, they emailed you, and nothing has happened since then. You also have a situation where you have lapsed patients. So you'll have, again, patients on your database who maybe came in for a treatment 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, have not come back again, right? Those are dormant patients, right? They are waiting to be woken up. Now, we describe these type of contacts as low-hanging fruit. They're called low-hanging fruit because essentially they are the easiest types of leads to convert. Just to give you a statistic, it typically costs 6 to 7 times to get a new patient compared to what it costs to nurture an existing patient or an existing lead who already knows you, likes you, and trusts you. So it's thinking about, do you have a system in place to nurture and convert those leads? If you don't focus on those existing patients that are on your system, you are leaving money on the table, right? Because they are much, much easier to interact with, right? If somebody finds you on AdWords or somebody finds you on Facebook, they don't yet know anything about you. They're initially finding out about a problem they have. They may research your clinic, but it's the very, very first touch point. Whereas patients that have interacted with you or a lead that has come into your clinic, they will have had several touch points from you, right? They may have spoken to you, may have come in before, they've got some experience of you, so they're a lot warmer and a lot easier to convert as a result. So the question is, how do you nurture those existing contacts? Where do you start? So the first thing I'm going to say to you is focusing on email. I cannot stress enough the importance of focusing on email. The very first question I get when I say this is, what about GDPR? To which my response is, what about GDPR? GDPR does not change anything because when you interact with patients, you should be interacting with patients and leads on your database who have already opted in. That's best practice. That's something you should always be doing. What GDPR does, it tightens that up and makes it a lot stricter to make sure that you're all doing that. But in the first place, if a contact or a patient has not opted into your system, they're not going to be warm, they're not going to be interested in what you have to offer them. But the point is that email has not gone away. We're all using email the whole time. Even millennials use email. If you think about, for example, the fact that if you place an order, if you download something from the Apple Store, if you place an order on Amazon, you have to have email. Now, I want to, just to stress how important this is, I want to share with you a quote from Kim Garst. Kim Garst is the queen of social media. So I want to first make it clear, I have no objection to Google AdWords, I have no objection to social media. But the point I'm trying to make is you always start first with low-hanging fruit. And the fact is that what you do on social media needs to be connected to what you do on email. So Kim Garst has a massive social media community. But listen to her quote. I built a social media tribe of 1.3 million people, and I make roughly $0 there. The majority of my revenue, 90% of it, comes from my email list. So what happens is, she has this amazing community on social media that she has built up, but ultimately what she focuses on is driving those contacts onto her email list. And it's on email where her leads convert into sales. So she wouldn't have a community in the first place without social media. And many of you wouldn't have a community without social media. But the vital step is you need to get those people to opt into your email list. There are lots of ways of doing that. But once you have them on email, it's going to be much, much easier for you to nurture and convert those patients and those leads. I want to back this up by some evidence. So if you want to go and Google this, there is a study by Custora, and this study showed that Email is 40% as effective in social media at converting leads into sales. 40 times as effective. Again, don't stop using social media, but email is where the sale takes place. Very rarely does anyone buy on the back of an Instagram post, on the back of a Facebook post. The Facebook post and the Instagram post are vital in terms of raising your profile, building brand awareness, getting the patient and the lead to be a lot more aware of what you do, but it's email that gets them over the finish line. The average order value is 17% higher too. So why is email so effective? There's a number of reasons, right? The first thing is that 91% of consumers use email daily. Just think about it on a day-to-day basis. You're interacting with your customers, with your suppliers, with your work colleagues, with your friends, with your family, with those you love on email. Email is a lot more intimate. So although your audience will see social media updates, they won't catch them all. They'll miss a lot of them. Whereas it's much, much harder, if you have an engaging email, it's much, much harder to be ignored. So email feels a lot more personal. Your emails are seen a lot more, and it's much easier to follow up with people. So there's that level of intimacy. So what is that? We've talked so far about the importance of low-hanging fruit, your existing database, the hundreds and thousands of leads and patients that you've already come in and seen you. What's the next thing you need to do? The next thing you need to do is nurture your contacts who are on your email database. And I like to talk about online marketing a little bit like a courtship, right? And unfortunately, this is what most clinics do. So what they do is they sell, sell, sell. There's nothing wrong with offers, but what you need to start off with is nurturing your contacts. To start selling to your leads straight away is a little bit like me approaching one of you in the room and saying, will you marry me? Right? You'd find it creepy. You'd want to run away. You'd run a mile, right? So you need to focus, right, on nurturing. So this is what you need to be doing. The first thing to be aware of is that whoever your patient is, it doesn't matter how amazing your clinic is, right? I've got news for you, right? Your patients are not that into you. I don't mean that as an insult. You may run the most amazing practice, but the reason a patient comes to you is that they're into themselves, right? And the reason that they're into your clinic is that your clinic is going to transform them. It's going to give them a transformation, and it's going to help them, right? So it's all about make me feel important, and that focus of your email needs to be on your patient rather than on you. So whatever you're selling, whatever you're promoting, it always has to be through the lens of your patient. So this is how the courtship works, right? So what will typically happen, we don't have a lot of time, but in a nutshell, what happens is that you will have patients, you'll have leads who will come onto your email list because they've seen your update on Facebook, right? So for example, you might post an update on Facebook, or for example, it might be, I've got love handles, what's the best way to treat love handles, and what happens is they go to your website, they download a guide, they give their email address, and as a result, they join the email list, right? So that's a little bit like asking somebody on a date. When somebody opts in to join your email list, it's a little bit like if you ask somebody on a date, they give you their phone number, they give you their email address. But again, you're not proposing marriage yet. It's way too early for that. So what you're doing initially is nurturing them. All right, a little bit like with a courtship when you start dating, right? You get to know each other. You ask the person about themselves. You take an interest in them, right? You show empathy to them, right? You understand what they're going through. You reflect to them how it feels. And gradually that relationship builds up as we get towards a point where they're actually coming into your clinic and requesting treatment. So let's look at how that works in practice. So in practice, there are different emails you need to be sending depending on where the patient or where the lead is on that journey with you. The first step is that you need to build a relationship with them, right? They don't know anything about you. They don't know anything about your clinic. They're a stranger. You need to turn them into a friend. They need to know you. They need to like you. They need to trust you. The next step is engagement, right? And that's where you ask them questions. How many of you actually, when your patients join your email list, do you actually send them out personalized emails asking them what bothers you about your skin? What prompted you to download this guide? The third thing is about building authority. So it's sharing case studies. It's sharing stories about patients like them and what they've been through, so they can feel that you empathize with them, so that you understand what they're going through. Then you pre-sell to them. So that might be you might be telling them about some treatment you're about to launch or an offer that you've got coming up, and only then do you start selling. So there's a process that we take them through, and this whole process can be automated, right? So if any of you use MailChimp, any of you use HubSpot, Infusionsoft, ActiveCampaign, Aweber, Constant Contact, all these systems enable you to automate this. So the moment a patient makes an inquiry, opts into your list, they'll automatically get a series of emails. So let me show you how that works. So first thing is focusing on your audience's problems, not your offers. Right, so that the really important thing to say here is what clinics tend to do is they send out very, very graphics heavy emails with lots of offers. That's extremely impersonal. Remember, we're dealing with people who have very, very personal problems, which are very emotional. And the last thing they need is lots of graphics and lots of offers. What they need is an email that goes out from one of the doctors that feels like a personal email. If you look at this example, you can't see any graphics, can you? But it's all about showing empathy. It's all about reflecting to the patient what they're going through, right? And how painful it is. The next thing you need to do is engagement. So I talked about this courtship, right? If you were dating somebody, you wouldn't talk about yourself the whole time. It's off-putting, it's boring. So the thing is to start reaching out to your patients and asking them questions, right? So for example, if they downloaded a guide about love handles, you ask them, what prompted you to download the guide? What's bothering you about your body? You'll be amazed at how many patients and how many leads open up to you, because nobody does that. And the next stage is to follow this up with a mix of offers and emails. So it's fine to send regular emails, but you mix up the emails. Some of your emails will be educational, right? It'll be about, it'll be tips on different creams you can use, or different treatments you can use to solve a particular problem. Some of it will be telling a story about a patient that came into the clinic. And then occasionally you'll also promote offers, you'll promote treatments that are coming up. But the point is, what you need to be doing with your marketing is you need to be, rather than selling, you need to be getting people to a point that rather than you're pushing something onto them, you're getting them to a point where they're raising their hand and saying, can you tell me more about this? Yes, this is something that really bothers me. I've had this problem for years. Maybe I've got love handles. I'm really embarrassed to go swimming and to wear a swimsuit. What can I do? What treatment's available? Can I come and see you? The other thing you should be doing is sending your patients and sending your leads to really useful information that they will sign up for. So again, if they suffer from a particular problem, rather than just pushing treatment, take that first step of helping them solve a problem. They're much more likely, if you're coming to them as somebody who's going to help them solve a problem, they're much more likely to pay attention to you and then talk to you. And then finally, once you've basically taken the time to engage with them, to introduce yourself to them, right, to show empathy for what they're going through, to ask them questions, to share case studies with them, then you can start making offers. And the result will surprise you. You will be amazed at the number of patients, the number of leads who ask questions like this. They'll ask about prices. Can you send me more information? I'd like to explore this treatment. And what amazes me also is how long some of the patients, the amount of detail patients will go into. They really open their heart out and really tell you what they're going through. It's actually quite moving, right, what you're hearing. But the point is, the more human you are with your emails that you send to them, the more that they open up and they want to talk to you. So I want to basically summarize in a couple of minutes just what we've covered over the last half an hour. So we've talked about the number one. You don't have to stop advertising on AdWords. You don't have to stop advertising on Facebook. But my advice to you is always focus on low-hanging fruit. Always focus first, before anything else, on those patients who are on your list, who maybe not come into your clinic for a year, 2 years, 3 years. You'll be surprised at how many of them will get in touch with you if you reach out to them. The other thing is focus also on all those leads who come into the clinic and have not yet converted into a patient, right? Who have sent you an email, who filled in an inquiry form, who came into a consultation but have so far not acted. The next thing to do is to get over that preconception that email is no longer popular, right, because of GDPR, etc. I've actually got a question to ask you. I mean, I'd be interested to ask those of you, those who are here today, how many emails do you think you should send to your patient? How frequently in a month do you think you should be emailing your patient? Does anyone want to have a hazard a guess? How frequently do you think you should be emailing your patients? Once a week? Once a month? How often? Once every week. Right. So if you're not emailing your patients at least once a week, you're leaving money on the table. In fact, what we have found again and again and again, when you increase the frequency of emailing people, something very strange happens. A certain number of people will unsubscribe. Don't worry about that. Those people who unsubscribe are not interested in the first place. The people who are left, the people who have not unsubscribed, as you email more frequently, they become more engaged. Your open rates go up, your engagement rate increases. Right? So don't be scared. An objection I often hear is, I can't start emailing my patients. I'm going to put them off. Right? Yes, you're going to put off a small number of people. You're going to alienate a small number, but there's going to be a larger number of patients and leads who are much, much more engaged as a result. So it's making more use of email marketing, but instead of sending all these graphics-heavy promotional emails, focus on treating your emails like dating, right? As when you're dating and you're building a relationship, it's about getting to know each other, getting to like each other, getting to trust each other, and falling in love. And what you want to do is, by following this process, you will get your patients and your leads to fall in love with you. So I've got something special for you this morning. As you've attended this morning's session and you've followed all the points that I've made, I've got something to share with you. So what we have is the process that I've described in this morning's presentation is outlined in this guide. And the guide is called Discover the 5-Step Formula for an Online Campaign that Fills Your Clinic. And what this guide does is it walks you through this process on how to take those patients, get them onto your email list, and nurture them so that they get to know you, like you, trust you, and buy from you. So the link is here. It's bit.ly/full-clinic. So bit.ly/full-clinic. And you can go online and you can download the guide. If any of you have any questions now, I'd be very, very happy to answer them. Yes?
When you say about reconnecting with patients that have been in touch for a long time,
Yeah.
would you suggest in that email doing an offer? I'm just thinking about the content of what that email would be, or is we miss you gives
Yes.
£10 off? Is that, again?
That's a very, very good question. So the question was that when you're re-engaging with patients who've not heard from you for a while, what's the first thing you should do? So my advice is not straight away to go into offers. Initially, you need to actually there is an email or a sequence of emails you need to send to first warm them up again, just to remind them about who you are, or remind them about how you can help them, and also tell them a bit, set their expectations about the fact that you've launched a new initiative, they're going to be hearing more often from you, this is the information. So it's all about setting their expectations about what sort of emails they're going to be getting from you. And then once you start sending those emails, yes, you can then include some offers. But first, set their expectations so it's not a case of, what is this about? Yes, hi. Do you have a microphone by the way? Sorry. Great. No worries. Hi. Good morning.
Hi, thank you. So I can only talk about Outlook, because that's the email that I use.
Yeah.
But now that they've created sort of the focus in the other parts of the email,
Yeah.
how do you ensure that the emails that you're sending don't end up in junk or in other?
Yeah.
And really that they get into the focused inbox?
Okay, so one of the things you need to be doing, on average, about a third of your email list will get disengaged, which means roughly over a 12-month period, a third of your subscribers will stop opening your emails, they will have changed their preferences, they will have moved on, or they will have changed their email address. What you need to periodically do is you need to run something called a re-engagement campaign, which is something we can advise you on. But what it is it's a series of emails to check in with the people who are no longer opening your emails to find out whether they're still interested. If they consistently then do not open your emails, you need to unsubscribe them. So that's really important. If you have a large number of people who don't open your emails, Google can then move your stuff into the promotions folder And similar thing with other email subscribers. So you need to check regularly how many people are not opening any of your emails and then ensuring those are unsubscribed. And that's a completely normal situation that happens. Hi, let me just get the microphone for you.
No, sorry, I've got a simple question. You're assuming that you've got clients already.
Yeah.
If you're new to aesthetics, how would you
So
sort it out?
that's that's an excellent question for some of you. I would imagine for quite a few of you, you don't currently have an email list and you need to start off having an email list. So the first thing you need to do is you do need to advertise there. And there's also things you can do that don't require advertising. So you can share both organic posts on social media and also paid posts on social media. But what you do with those posts is you share information where they're going to opt in. So it might be, for example, where you highlight a particular problem. So it might be that your target audience is men who suffer from gynecomastia, and what you can then do is, there are several ways of dealing with gynecomastia, and then drive them to your website where they can download for something and opt into your list. It's also having a system in place that when somebody comes into a consultation, you actually get them to opt in. Obviously, following a GDPR compliant process, but where they opt into your emails. But yes, you do need to build your list first. But what I'm saying is don't neglect the list you already have, and that's what we're all guilty of doing. Would anyone else like to ask any questions? Okay, so thank you very much for coming today. If you'd like any more information, I also have some case studies that I can share with you that will also show you what else you need to be doing. I'll also be hanging around this morning if any of you want to ask me anything. Thank you very much.